about just the corporeal form, but we can't include it. It gives you a positive result every time. Yeah, you see, it says Shiva was blue, Krishna was blue. They're telling you. People were green, then we started to turn topaz, and then we started to turn dark brown. That came from mixing in with them Hindus. I'm telling y'all, man. Hey, they cover all this stuff up. They don't be wanting y'all to know that. And they'll come across here and flag me and say, "Oh, you're being hateful." And it's like, no, I'm just educating the people. You know I am. But they don't want y'all to tap into this type of stuff because it bring up them type of questions. That get people to thinking, man. You know what I mean? Like that one nigga, what's his ass name? What's his name? Can't remember this goofy ass nigga name. Dan Calloway. You know, he be saying, all I'm trying to do is make you think. I'm not trying to make you think. I'm gonna make you think. we eliminating that trying. When leaves lose chlorophyll, they turn brown too. Exactly. They oxidize. That means that you're breathing in oxygen. And oxygen and iron in water begins to do what? It rusts. I got a playlist called The Melanite Children. It got 4 parts to it. Y'all need to check that out. I covered that last year sometime. Yes, genetically, within the phenotype of your genetic makeup. That's what I'm saying. Just to put it in this appropriate context, because it's just a container to be a vehicle for your etheric essence to incarnate into and experience this reality. You follow? But the beings that originally seeded you here, they didn't sit here and wait and watch you grow. And as it sat, my shit pausing up again. As they sat, they didn't sit and wait for the shit to grow, but other beings from other star systems came here and started to breed in with what was seeded physically. Because these beings come from a spiritual universe. You got a physical universe, and then you have a spiritual universe. Yeah, the soul does turn into an etheric essence. You seen that mug pause up, didn't you? Yeah, man. Yeah, they don't like me on here. Y'all tap the like button. I'm telling y'all, man. You got a question, energy? Because you be all over the place, brother. I know you be trying to put it together under your own recognizance, but you just need a little bit of guidance, that's all. Yeah, you be on the right track. You'll see what I mean. You get hit with that staff. They keep pausing me, man. They keep pausing me. They say, yeah, knowledge is infinite. Yeah, it is. It creates an infinite loop. And knowledge, although it's necessary, it in itself is not a sufficient condition. You know, and it's a lot of people out there. They attempt to just consume all the knowledge. And like I said, it's not a sufficient condition. Just like a person trying to take all of the money, that's still not a sufficient condition. You know, you have to apply yourself, and you have to channel that knowledge into something. You know, that's where your spirituality comes into play, and spiritual rights. You know, and you start to learn another form of knowledge. You know. But in order to access that knowledge, it takes some type of application. Your character has to be refined in order to be worthy to receive that form of data or knowledge. And it will enhance and refine the database of the knowledge that you already have once you have been placed through a gauntlet to see if you are worthy enough to possess that type of information. You know, now you start dealing with attributes of character, primarily your behavior, your maturity, and your ability to be responsible for the information. You know, the Timhu, the desolated one, which you may refer to as Amorites or Edomites, you know, they just wanted to go ahead and raid the libraries and raid the occult centers. And, you know, you see what they're doing it all the way up to today, digging up the people in the ground. And that ain't cool. Let me do that to your people. Then I'm being hateful. Oh, you're exhibiting hate speech. We got to block you now. But it's okay if y'all get right here on the live camera and dig up the graves. And I'm telling you, all y'all people that say, oh, Egypt is in the West, y'all doing those ancestors that's in the grave in the East a disjustice when y'all say that. Because you're making it justifiable. You're giving them a reason to justify what's a total violation. Every time, oh, we're not connected to Africa. Y'all not even connected to your dearly departed. So why even make those erroneous delusional, points? Especially wasn't a part of Tamaray. That shit made me feel some type of way when people be saying that. You know what I mean? Because I was there on Tamaray for real. 404 Shady Dale Road. And I remember my Supreme Grand Master when we were calling the land Kodesh, and it went from Wahani to Tamaray, which is Egypt or the rest. And shouts out to Dr. Dr. Ben Yakinen, Yusef Yakinen. May the ancestors be with him. Because he corrected my Supreme Grand Master teacher on that fact and said that, hey man, the original name of this landmass was Tamaray. And he was right about that. He said we are all stars and every star is sun. Yeah, those are two different things. Like, if they was the same thing, it wouldn't be no need for one or the other. These is they tricks. The language, the tricknology. I was on, Kenan Real Real's page the other day, and we was talking about that. The language is what's leaving you confused. And this is why when you go through the 9 gates of Raynology, which you should get that 1089 manual, when you're not going, you have to go through the dictionary. Then you have to go through an etymology dictionary to see where the origin of these words that you're using comes from and what it was meant and why did they use them, so that you can see through the spells that they putting out in the English language. Because English words are nothing but Roman letters. You know what I mean? English words are Roman letters. That's what it is. Yeah. So a lot of times, it'll take you down a road of conjecture. He said in my I want you to overstand. So you should ask questions, energy, instead of, I understand that you're well read and you done read a certain things, but don't let your ego get in the way of you asking a question definitively instead of leaving lofty comments. Because a lot of times you blocking somebody else that might have a real question, and they're like, damn, I can't even ask my question. Like, man, how come you just talking on that? It's not. And don't feel discouraged, you guys. If you have a question, I don't care if you're new to this, because I'm here for people that's new to their journey. You know what I mean? And if you got yet less than 7 years or left, you a neophyte to me. You got a lot to learn. I don't care what you know. No, now you gaslighting me when you say stuff like that, energy. I asked 2 questions and you ignored them. No, I don't. When you ask the question, you put a question mark on the end of it, just like I Am Castro just did. Are we able to go back through all 64 generations of our ancestors, or only 4 pairs on each side? Well, you got more than 64 generations. That's just how far back your ancestors began. That's where the ancestors began 64 generations ago, right? That might, and when we talk about the four sides, we're talking about the four pairs. That's your mother and your father, your grandmother and your grandfather, and their mothers and fathers, and you. That make up the four generations. You follow what I'm saying? And you got to learn how to call on all of them. And you can't call on all of them. You just call on the ones that you know, and those that are known will connect you to those that's unknown. And those blessings will reach them. What's your thoughts on the Tenos in Mexico? I said, is Isis and Mayat the same, and what's your understanding of Mayat? Yeah, Isis and Mayat are not the same. Those are two different words altogether. You follow? Now, when you say Isis, that's the Greek way of saying Osset. So you have a Greek understanding of things. That's what you're showing me within the semantics of your question. And Mayat is a deity that represents truth and justice. And they're not the same thing, because she sits in another portion of the scale. She's more of an earth deity, and Osset is one of the Enad. She predates Mayat, if you will. And I don't know what the Tenos. Let me look that up right fast, because I'm not familiar with it. With that terminology, maybe you might be spelling it wrong or something. Or let me see. Tenos in Mexico. It got Teno music. Oh, you talking about the pyramids? What they saying is the Mayans. That's Aztecs. Yes, I'm highly familiar with it. In fact, no, Osset is Osset is Haru's mother. When you say Hiru, right? You're speaking about the four sons of Haru. That's a plural form of Haru. It's to say Hiru. When you say Hiru, you're saying more than one. You follow? And that goes for Hapi, Kapasinu, Duamutef, and Mseti. Those are the four sons. And they represent four portions of the body which are connected to the endocrine system, which are placed in canopic jars and placed in the tombs of the pharaohs, right? Or the person that's being buried. It's primarily a funerary custom that morticians take up, which was performed by the brother of Haru, who is Ampu, who the Greeks called Anubis. That's Haru's bigger brother. That's his older brother. And yes, they had the same father and mother, or they had the same father but different mothers. But when you say Mayat, you're talking about the deity Mayat, and she's there for Lord Thoth, or who you call Tahuti, to pull a feather from her wings, right? Because she has the wings of justice, right, and truth, right? And Osset was known later through other dynasties. They integrated that into being, like they integrated everything else just to keep you mixed up and confused. So what is the 42 negative confessions of Mayat? If you know about the 42 negative confessions of Mayat, you know what it is. Why are you asking that question? I'm trying to see where come on, man. Why are the negative confessions considered negative, and when did they become the ideals? They're to call out the things that are wrong in people's behavior. There's a book by the name of the Book of Ptahhotep, and it's pretty much a guide for your morality and your maturity and how you should conduct yourself. And it's really a book that represents, the moral code and behavior of the way that humans should conduct themselves. And Those negative confessions are confessions of things that you have not done. I have not committed adultery. I have not killed anyone's wife. You ask those 42 things in the celestial courts before they place your heart on a scale of Mayat, which will balance out the truth and justice that's found in that heart. And once you pass that, they're going to assess your heart and see if it's dense, if it's a physical heart or a spiritual heart. So they'll take a feather from Mayat's wings and place it on the scale. And if that heart is heavier than the scale, then you have a physical mind and it can't register on the spiritual plane. So you have to come back to earth and remove the density from your mind. So you will have to come and live another lifetime. And that's what that's all about. I hope that answers your question. I want to get to this other brother's question about temples in South America, the pyramids, the Mayans. Yeah, those were not Mayans. Those are not Mayans. He said a spiritual psychosis is real. Anything spiritual is real. Anything physical is fake. You know what I mean? So when you having these mental disorders going on, the psyche is connected to the soul, right? And those are not disorders. It's just that you're functioning from your higher senses, and they don't want to accept that in the physical dimension, especially the Western world, because they're not spiritually aligned with themselves anyway. That's why it's so much blood on the end of the sword of Christianity. You know what I mean? But if somebody is in tune with the spiritual universe and their first eye is open, they're going to call you schizophrenic. They're going to say that you got a psychosis. However, they don't never tell you that going into the church and taking on the indoctrination of religion is a spiritual psychosis. That's the real spiritual psychosis. Because people talk about God like this nigga took them to Chick-fil-A or something. Like they had some fucking, Instagram moment with this nigga and they my story. Same thing with Jesus. Same thing with all the rest of this other stuff. And this is why I tell all my students, and they'll tell you themselves. Like, man, Doc be telling you, don't be trying to connect to the gods. Connect to your big mama, because you experienced her. You got pictures of her that she exists with your mama or your daddy. That can be validated to you. And people don't never want to deal with the tangible things that they can connect to. They want to go into antiquity, or they want to go into the stars and quasars instead of dealing with the reality that's put before them already. He said, I'm interested in your perspective on temples in Mexico and South America. Oh yeah, those temples was built by the Olmecans, the rubber plant people that walked across the Bering Strait before you had a continental drift. When all of the land masses won. They've been here for millions of years. We've been here hundreds of millions of years, right? And when they showing you them temples, they always talk about the Mayans. But the children of the Olmecs is the Aztecs, not the Mayans. When y'all talking about the Mayans, those are Hindus, right? That came they went east and ended up in Siberia. And some of them walked across the Bering Straits in Upper Capricorn, above the Tropic of Capricorn, because we didn't care about none of that land. You know what I mean? That's right. Egypt is not in America. Egypt ain't even in Egypt. How about that? Egypt is a Hyksos word. Them Hyksos, the first Hyksos was Armenians, Gypsies. And when you say it in the Greek language, they say Egyptos. You know what I mean? Burnt-faced Egyptians or burnt-faced Gypsies. That goes for the Ashkenazis and the Khazars, right? And those people was ruled over by a man named Menkaure. Menkaure was the third son of a pharaoh or a Neferti, because pharaoh is a Greek word. The real word is said is Afirti. And the Afirti ruled Hel Tazor. I write about this in my book, The Parudi Paradigm. Y'all need to pick that up, 1089techvision.com, link in the bio. And Tel Hazor, which they later started to call Jerusalem, which it wasn't no J, and during that time they called it Jerusalem, right? Which means Haru Hotep, right? Haru, the peaceful one, or peace is in Haru, right? The mountainous one, he who can see very far. Because a Haru or a hawk can fly very far, and it can see, it has very keen sight. But just of recent, what you call anthropologists have pulled up a litany of Parudis, which you refer to as sphinx. And it took these sphinx, they was in the ground in what they call in Israel today. And when you look at the word Israel, it's a derivative of three words: Isis, Ra, and El. You follow? He said, was it the Anunnaki? He said, no, that was the Dahavidians that said that. The Hindus. They said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. Because they wasn't man. He was a kind of man. And he's seeing that through the Ta'ites. And when they mixed in with us, they had their own form of man. That was called the Cushites, right? And if you go past Genesis 1:26 and you really read that Bible, and you go into Genesis 2, verse 10 through 14, and it said the gold of that land was good. One of the lands that they name is Cush. They say the word Cush. And I told you where the Cushites came from. On the issue of Western spirituality, business operates on the belief of profits over people. The Western countries don't have spirituality. Like I said, it's spearheaded by the Gentiles of this nation, who are settlers and squatters. You follow? They don't belong here. You move them about the way, you will see the traditions that we always held, which was honoring our dearly departed. You follow? I talk about that in my book as well. And we don't use terms within the Indo-Euro system, because that tethers them to the timeline and it gives their false ideologies validation. We're not here to validate no Edomites, no Canaanites, none of they haven't been here long enough. They barely been here 6,000 years. Barely. And when you say the word Anunnaki, and I had to say this because so many people are going on the Anunnaki. When you say the word Anunnaki, Anunnaki means those Anu sent to Ki in groups of 50. Right? There is no planet called Anunnaki. There is no sun called Anunnaki. And it's primarily a description of a group of beings that was sent to Earth, that were asked a question by the Sumerians, who were the first beings not to encounter the Anunnaki. They were the first beings to record the presence of the Anunnaki. You follow?